All right, guys, warmly welcome to Cocktails and Courageous Conversation. This is the after work event where two people who are passionate about something hangs out in a bar and has a cocktail, a mocktail, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. I think we're both having tea today, aren't we, Tiffany? Um,
Indeed.
a cup of something, and cocktails are optional. Optional, obviously, courage is guaranteed. And we had a little difficulty when we started out today. We wanted to do this live, and the IT gods were against us, needless to say. So this is a recording, and for those of you who are watching this now, we're still encouraged because normally we do this live, and we have, we are hanging out with you guys. So we're inviting you to still come tell us where you're from, tell us if you're watching, send us likes, send us hearts, ask your questions, share your struggles. So we want you to pretend that we are with you in this very moment when you are watching this. Pretend that this is a live video, and we hope that you'll interact with us because we want to come back later and go through your comments, your questions, your challenges, and do kind of a part two of this webinar where we do a Q&A and where we connect with you once we have sorted out a better way to have the technique working in our favor. So I have been so looking forward to this particular webinar for a variety of reasons. First of all, Tiffany, I don't know you that well. I've heard of you, and all the things I've heard are like amazing. So you're just someone, people want to know. I'm guessing like you're just somebody who, we all want to sit at your table. And also that the things that you're doing, as it turns out, that is something that I think I would have needed in my life when I went through something difficult. And also now as a professional, it's something that I really struggle with, how to help people in the best ways when they are going through this transition. So from breakup to breakthrough, the co-parenting revolution. Tiffany, would you mind starting off by telling us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So first, I'm so grateful to actually be here and have really been looking forward to this conversation too, Ricky. And I think particularly because of the people who are most likely watching this being part of the ACT and contextual behavioural science world, that's my home, that's my professional family. So to be in a bar with our family is pretty special for me. And I'm thinking that the internet gods have been looking after making sure that everybody can actually have a cocktail at the time that they're watching this rather than at the time of day that you and I are having this conversation.
Yeah.
So that was just a big pause. I'm Tiffany. I'm in Western Australia. I am Zooming in, it's not even Zoom. I am coming to you from Bolu, which is on Whadjuk Noongar Budja. The Whadjuk Noongar people are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm privileged to live and work. And I honour their ongoing connection to the land. And I think that the story of the Indigenous history here in Australia and us as me as part of the colonisation people. In fact, we can track my entry into Australia back to some of my ancestors who came across on the first ships as convicts. They were perhaps not the best of society. No, they were. Who knows their full story. We have a country that has been grounded in trauma for a long time, and we have this beautiful earth that we're trying to caretake and trying to heal relationships to do that together. And so I think there is a lot of similarities, even though I'm thinking my words came out very poorly as I tried to bring that across into the work that I'm really passionate about, which is acknowledging that sometimes the right thing to do for a relationship is to end and to separate it out. But with that comes trauma, with that comes pain. And yet there are these two people who still have these most gorgeous children to raise. And so finding a way to do that, to be joint custodians of the children and to recover from trauma together, I think is there's a lovely synergy there. So in terms of who I am, I'm a karaoke obsessed clinical psychologist who has pivoted into the coaching sphere to resource separated parents to raise healthy children as part of one family across 2 homes.
Wow. And so, knowing that you just talked about splitting up and all that, I just wanted to say that I heard karaoke, and my thought was like, we should do, apart from this, we should have like a karaoke night for our ACBS family online. Like, let's hang on to that
Yes,
idea as well. Like,
please.
do a karaoke night where we can sing all over the world and have a cocktail mocktail cup of something together. I think that's a brilliant. I just love that you are a cocktail, not cocktail, karaoke fan. That was a Freudian slip. Just before we started this, I was like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning for me. And I was like, I think now that when nothing is working, I could need a cocktail right now. I could need that. So you are doing so important work for people who are splitting up, choosing to go separate ways and sharing these gorgeous children. And I know that you said that there are some there are some mistakes kind of that practitioners with the best of intentions, right? But it sounded to me when you were describing this is that there are certain mistakes or traps that practitioners fall into when trying to help people who are transitioning into separate homes. What are some of these mistakes that you see practitioners like? How can we as professionals, how can we do better? How do we set in the most humble way, but like what do we need to be aware of, and how can we help couples who have split in a better way?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, this is something I'm so passionate about, and particularly again with people who perhaps are more interested in an acceptance and commitment therapy framework, because I think perhaps we are not perhaps we are best skilled. We are best skilled to be able to support people through this, and the reason that we are best skilled is also because we are more likely to avoid one of the biggest mistakes. We are trained to look at the context that people are in and the systems that are around them. And we tend to conceptualize problems as being part of systems and interactions and not housed inside people. One of the biggest mistakes that unfortunately well-meaning therapists often make is seeing problems housed in people. And then when they only have one person sitting in front of them, holding that narrative as the true narrative of what has happened, rather than having the multiple hypotheses open and looking for what are the stories that are not being told to round out more of a picture. So what we can see there, and this is particularly when we have children being taken to see therapists, we know that children from separated families need mental health support at about 21% of them, which is double the rate for children in intact families. So they are more likely to turn up in the therapy room. And some of the mistakes that get made is that people will go with the parent who brings the child in and not contact the other parent, not ask for their perspective or their involvement. And that means that if the story of the child is about the difficulties in navigating separation, we're missing out on so much of the story about what's happening. And then we can start to frame up interventions that make sense from the narrative that we have, but could be quite out of place for the child that's sitting in front of us. So I would say it's incredibly important for those who work with children to reach out to both parents, to not be afraid of having both people, not necessarily in the room at the same time, but to really engage them in the life of the child. We also need to be mindful of really unpacking stories, I think. So a very common story that gets bandied around when there is conflict after separation is about one of the parents being a narcissist. It would be the one that I would hear the most often. And people often start a conversation with me saying, I know everybody says this, but but my ex really is. And I know I can't diagnose, but I've looked at all the data, and they really, really are. And if we take that as read, then we're trying to help them do something incredibly tricky. But it might change the whole shape of how we're going to tell them to interact with that co-parent, or what we might get them to do. And some of those things not only will make things worse with their co-parent, but they're also going to make things worse in a court setting, in a legal setting, if things are going to move that way. So we need to be asking about, what do these behaviours look like? Where do they appear? What comes before? What comes after? And holding open our multiple hypotheses. I'm sure as we're talking, I promise I'll stop at a moment so that you can say something back, Ricky. But I think, like, even as I'm talking, I'm thinking about, this is the stuff that I love within doing a good functional analysis of behaviour, within looking at what is the more in this story. So it's where I think contextual behavioural science-minded people are so good for stepping into this space, because they can hold those multiple perspectives more easily. I think we're trained in it better within that framework, even if we're not meeting those people. I'm just going to stop talking for a moment and actually,
So can I just say, like, I love to hear you talk, and I love to see how passionate you are. And so you have permission to pour your heart out and tell us about this. I love what you're doing, and I love that you're doing something that you're so passionate about. And I think this is such important work. And you have set up an entire program, right? Would you tell us a little bit about that? Helping parents, or helping families, I'm guessing.
Yes, so it is helping parents, and by everything that we do at Co-Parenting Companion is about safeguarding the future for children. I'm absolutely unapologetically doing this work for the kids. Having said that, what I learned very early in my career, I started out in multisystemic therapy. I thought that I'd wanted to work with teens, and when I started in multisystemic therapy, which was working with the families of severe repeat juvenile offenders, I learned very quickly that our best results don't come from working with a teenager. They come from working with the parents and the system. When we're looking at children from separated families, if we're waiting to the point where they are the ones that are needing help, and they are needing to turn up on the couch of someone like you or me, we're waiting too long. And that there is so much that we can do when we support and resource parents. And quite frankly, I would far rather have a really good, strong connection with loads of parents and help them have their strong and beautiful connections with their kids, rather than their kids having to have a strong and beautiful connection with me as a temporary part of their system. So what I was looking at was, at the time that I made this pivot, I was supporting families that were entrenched in the family court system. So they had already been in conflict for a long time. They'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were coming to me as mandated clients. So that was somebody else had told them that, you need to go and see Tiffany. These are the goals you will work on. And also she will report back to us to tell us how you're doing. And none of that sets up therapy for success. So we did get some gains, but really we had to work so freaking hard with me and the parents. We had to work so hard because there was such a long history of hurt. And over again, what I would hear from these parents is, I needed this then. I needed this earlier. Yeah. And they were right, because when we get in early, there's less to undo. We're working always, I was sitting with people who wanted to do the very best for their kids. It had just gone way off course, either because the conflict was so hard, or because they just had such different views about what was in the best interest. And they hadn't had someone at that early point, a developmental expert, being able to say, well, that's not really in their best interest right now. I can see that's what your intentions are, but maybe we could do it this way. And when we get in that early point, the people are like, oh, yeah, no. So long as Ed's going to look after my kids, we can do that. And when I went to conferences for working with court-involved families, or when I was looking at what the resources are out there, what I noticed was that my science, like the place that I call home, was missing, which was appalling, because I think we have the very best science for helping these people. And that one of the pieces that still gives me goosebumps whenever I think about it is the work of now I was going to say I've gone all lost, Ricky, of act and commit or commit and act. And, um, um, but of their work, act and commit in Sierra Leone, and the work that they have done in this war.
Biate and all of, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And the outcomes that they were getting in reducing post-traumatic stress disorder, in reducing acts of domestic violence, and they weren't doing it by locking people away or opening women's refuges or coming in with some kind of, police force. They were going in and training lay people to then go and help people figure out who they wanted to be and what they wanted to stand for, and then how to choose behaviours that lined up with that. And they did it with 3-day workshops.
yeah,
And I'm looking at it and going, we have the data. Like, this stuff
yeah,
freaking works. So it was time to do it.
yeah. It was time to do
So
it. I love that. It was
yes,
time to do it. It was time to do it. Yes, I'll
it was
say
time to
I'm
do it.
also very inspired by the Commit and Act, the entire group of people who are pouring their hearts out into those projects. And it's people like them and you that we need in this community that is passionate about something and kind of wants to start getting into an area that has maybe been overlooked and using the science that we already have and that we treasure and that we love. And so people like, so I was thinking, you might know this, like I went through a divorce and as I said, as a not as a practitioner, as me, I needed something like this. And I would guess, and I have I had my ex-husband was here yesterday and I talked to him about like, what can I say in this webinar? And he was like, oh, just you can say anything. And so, what, if I were to come to you, if I were to look up, like I want to go somewhere where people can help me, or if he were to do that, I'm not sure that the other one would want that. Like I'm so like I might look that up, but he might go, yeah, you do you. I don't want anything to do with you, or the other way around. It doesn't have to be. But is that your experience that it might be not both parents wanting to go on a joint adventure? Like the default is like, let's get as far as, maybe let's get away from each other, and now we're going to do this together. What is your experience with this? Like, who is coming into your program and what does that look like?
Yes, yeah, look, you're absolutely right that we will get both types, and so because of that, we have two different arms of our business, and one is where I will work with both parents together, and that is in a 1-to-2 coaching model where we will set some goals and work directly with it, and it's beautiful work. My goodness me, because I'm working with people who are so heart-centered, child-focused. They light me up completely. I can't believe the privilege of being able to sit in this space with these people who have, they're going through their darkest days and looking at how do we do this well. So I'm a hell yes for that. And my condition for working with those people is that it has to be self-chosen. They have to want it. They cannot be doing it because anybody else has told them to do it. And they have to be a hell yes for me. So I'm a hell yes for them if they want to do it. And they also have to have that sense that I'm the right person to guide them there, because systems have failed these families often enough. I don't want to be another part of that. So as part of that, I start with a free discovery call with those people so they can actually suss me out, see what I'm like, see if I've got the approach that they're looking for. But with our other ones, and I think that probably they are the majority at the moment. They won't be. We're looking for systemic, paradigm shifting here. What I want to say, and to anybody who is serving families who are in that situation or who are going through that themselves, there is so much power. There is so much that can be done in looking at how do I want to co-parent in this space, even if this person never comes along, even if they never change, even if they truly are the narcissist, or whatever else, even if all of that is true, the most horrible version that we could say, Well, I mean, if all of that is true, you still have these kids that you're raising. They're still sharing DNA, and if not DNA, they're still sharing connection to them as their other parent, and you're still stuck in that for a long time. So there is so much that can be done by resourcing yourself for the road ahead. So for those people, we actually we within our group programs, everything is doubled, because I do want both sides. Anytime that we can have both parents. So if I start working with one and the other one wants to come on board, like, I want to have a safe space for them. So everything that we do, we have two completely separate communities of co-parents, so that they can come in and have that sense of humanity, that we're in this together. There are other parents who are also trying to figure out the best way through with a really tricky co-parent or someone who's not willing to come on board yet. And then we can look at, who do you want to be in the face of that? And do you want to be the person who is reacting to behaviours that you don't think are ideal, or do you want your behaviour to be defined by what matters to you, the legacy you want to lead? And then once you're there, like, how the frig do you do that? Because you're getting these awful emails or you're getting these terrible phone calls that are triggering. So what boundaries are okay to set? And how do we diffuse from that stuff? How do we do the hard stuff? All the stuff that sits very much within our model. How do we do the stuff that matters? How do we turn up and do stuff that sucks because it's the stuff that we really, really value? What I love then, because we've been doing this, for some time, is we do see then the behaviour change of the other parent as a byproduct. Because, of course, I mean, Ricky and I would be close to perfect, right? I mean, we're lovely, gorgeous people. We have our faults. There would be ways that I would speak to my co-parent, my children, my parents, that is not going to bring out their best selves. And I may be blind to those. And if somebody creates a nice, safe space where I can perhaps develop an awareness of that and track my unworkable behaviours, and then I change them, then funnily enough, the people around me change as well. And exactly. I might have repairs happen all over the place. And so that's then what opens up. And that's what we see opening up for these parents, is that the people that they found so tricky to co-parent with start coming to the table. Sometimes they start apologising for their actions, or being able to go to events with their other parent together. I think if you have a tricky co-parent, it's even more important to step in.
What I love about this, what I really love about this is that it's not something. So let's say that two co-parents choose to do this simultaneously. It is not as if they're going into couples therapy. It's not the two of them sitting in front of you arguing about all the ways that their relationship went wrong. And this is what I love about this. Like, you are creating a safe space for each parent, and to look at how they want to take their particular journey with the child in focus. And I really, really admire that about your program and about how you set up that context. So it's not another meeting where two ex-partners get to discuss who was the worst or the best or the smartest or etc. I really, really like that. And I think that when you say that, creating that safe space, I think that is so needed, because as you said, like, we might not have been the best version of ourselves always with a partner, maybe particularly finding that difficult while transitioning. So having a space where you can look at who you want to be, and also what you are doing that seems to be working, and especially what you're doing that doesn't seem to be working and doesn't align with who you want to be. Like, I can honest to God say that while I have a lot of stories about my divorce, and I would love to share the ones where I was kind and compassionate, and those are the ones that I like to shine a light on. And honestly, I was horrible at times. Like, I was horrible because I was hurt, and I felt broken, and I was sad, and I was angry, and all of that. And so I love that you have a space where you look at the entire repertoire of behaviors, and I'm guessing without judgment, looking at this is how you respond to difficulties, what seems to be working for you, and how does that align with who you want to be, right? Because you said about the narrative, it's easier for me to talk about the narrative about how I was such a compassionate and kind person. And if you ask my ex-husband, he would say yes, and and there were other behaviors as well. And I love what you said, that the children are the focus of everything that you do. How can you help parents be the best parents for their children? And I thought about, how can I be a role model for my children? How can I teach them about going through something that is difficult, going from loving somebody in a certain way. I still love my ex-husband, and it's a different love. How can we make that transition and show our children how to be brave, authentic, and kind adults, together and apart?
And I think that role modeling part, Ricky, is so important, because often when I'm working with people in those early stages, there's so much grief and guilt and blame, because there's this narrative. I mean, nobody puts "let's have children and then separate" on their vision board. It's not the plan, and so there's often this sense of, what have I done to my children? What have I done that we are now not able to live in the same house? And what I look at is, what you've done is amazing. Like, what you've done is so courageous and brave. It is incredibly courageous to acknowledge that this relationship is not serving the needs of both of you, and to stay that you're modeling unhealthy romantic attachment and unhealthy dynamics, and the kind of intimate relationship you would probably never forecast and plan and hope for your own children. But in the courage to step away, and then to do that hard work, as you say, to model, this is what we do, to show up and to do the hard work. Oh my gosh, what that teaches kids about the kind of adults that they can become, about the kind of boundaries that they have the right to hold, and about what loving and caring for yourself does and then brings to future relationships, where I know that you mentioned that both you and your ex-husband have repartnered, and you mentioned that your children refer to you all as their adults. And how beautiful is that the two of you have given that level of richness and depth for your kids. That is beautiful role modeling right there.
It is beautiful, and I'm able to hear that and receive that, and I'll just say that it has been such hard work, and I think it takes exactly the journey. Like, I wish I had you then. I wish I knew about you, because I think that I think really, when one is going through this, you need somebody to, first of all, to surround you and smother you with love and compassion and kindness, because it's kind of a lonely road to start traveling down that road when you are hurt and you're separating from somebody who was your primary person, but also somebody who is willing to give you that kind of feedback about you when you are not being the parent you want to be, or the person you want to be in this world. So I think it has taken, for us in my particular family right now, it has taken so much hard work, and I'm so proud of that. And I think our example, I don't think many people has it that way, and I'll just say that for us it has taken a lot of work. We get, in my family, we have a meal maybe once a week. We have Christmases together. In the summers, I go and see my parents. I will bring my partner, my children, my ex-husband, his partner. Like, we're all going to see, like, my parents are like, come on, and so we're one big family. We're not one big happy family at a time. Sometimes we're arguing and all of that. And I'll just say that it took the work of deciding who we want to be and having very difficult conversations, like very hard conversations. And I think that we needed a space where we had our own safe spaces. So we needed you, and I'm so on a professional level, I'm so proud of all the things that you're doing, and on a personal level, I'm just like also simultaneously so proud of what you're doing. Your work is so needed. Creating a space for parents to really connect to who they want to be and what they want to model for their children in within this framework. I just love you and what you're doing, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So if I came to you, like let's say I came to you, Tiffany, and I'm like, so this was not my narrative, but let's say it was like my ex, he's a narcissistic freak and he is ruining me and my, like let's say that was my narrative, like, so you know he's dangerous to the, like I would say anything to have it sound like I am such a saint.
Yep.
Where he's not. What would you be your, like I came to you, what would be your response to me? Like let's say this was you know, me being the client and you being you, the therapist. What kind of questions would you ask me? What would you say to me?
Yes, and look, and they're good questions to ask, because if I'm having that conversation, part of what I'm figuring out is, am I a hell yes for you? So I'm going to be checking about what you're open to and what you're not. So I'd probably say something along the lines of, you've been going through hell. Like, this is what you're describing is awful, and the behaviours that you've been experiencing from your co-parent sound terrible. I've never met them, and I can't come along with you agreeing that they're a narcissist, but I don't need to either, because whether or not they're a narcissist right now, that doesn't matter. You've experienced behaviours from them that are not tenable for you, that are awful for you, and something has to change. And I'm noticing that you're the one who's turned up and met with me today, and he's not here. So I want to ask you, because you're the one who's come, are you willing to look at what you can do so that this stops having this same hold over you, this same control in your life, to get some freedom and space for you?
So I asked you this, like what would you say, and your response right now, even though knowing the setup and the context we're in, I know if you can't see it, I don't know if you can see it, but I am moved to tears. What a beautiful, compassionate, kind response, and very contextualized and very much focused on what I can change and not how the other person needs to change. I love that. I hope, like, if you felt it, people who are watching this, if you felt it the way I felt it, even, like, regardless of how you felt it, let us know how you felt this. What a beautiful response to that, and what a way to acknowledge the narrative that this client, like I'm the client right now. What a beautiful way to acknowledge my experience of something is difficult, and also focusing on I am the one who has turned up, and I am the one in control of my own behaviors. Wow. Do you like, are there, like, so I always get this question. So I teach, as you know, acceptance and commitment therapy, and I supervise acceptance and commitment therapy. And one of the questions or requests I get most often is like, what's an exercise or a metaphor that you use? And I'm like, I find it so difficult to answer that question, because it depends on the context. It's like,
Yes.
so it will depend on it's like asking for my favorite piece. Well, it depends. Favorite piece of music. It depends. Am I sad? Am I going to dance? Am I hungry? Like I have music for every occasion, and still I do have favorites. So knowing that it's impossible to say what exercise or metaphor should one use. Instead, I'd say, could you tell us about one that you find yourself using sometimes when the context seemed to fit? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's an exercise I'd like to mention, and then a metaphor.
Yeah.
In terms of an exercise, I do a massive amount of future self and past self work in this space. The future self, so that we know what is the story that you want told of you, what is the story you want to be able to tell, and also that sense of that person that you're becoming. You know, she's got that wisdom, like she's already done this. She knows a pathway, and she can reach back and you know and step you through. And when we're looking at past self work, I get so frustrated by how many canned programs there are. So many of the programs that are there for separated parents around parenting are patronizing and condescending, because they're all about, well, you should shield your kids from conflict and you should operate in their best interests and you should put them first and put your stuff to the side. And the parents that I'm seeing, I know we talk about whether or not to swear, so I'll try, you know, they're freaking doing that. Like, that is, yes. Every part of them is trying to do that. They don't need to be told what to do. And when we instead help them just to connect with what did the little kid need if they were in that situation, or where do they want to go, they have all the answers. They know what it is that they want to do, and they're never wrong. Like, the most beautiful things come out of that space. So in terms of exercises, that is, you know, that is integral to so much of what I would do with pretty much all of my parents. In terms of metaphor, so my eldest, we're teaching him to drive at the moment. And by we, I mean his dad's teaching him to drive, and I'm trying to get brave enough to get in the car with him. And he might, we have friends with young children, there might be a time once he has his license that he is going to take these kids out somewhere. And I could spend a lot of time looking at what car seat he should have for the children to go in, and whether or not he's got enough driving experience. But what I'm also going to look at is, what is the car that he's putting the kids in? Does it have oil leaks? Is it going to backfire? Is it, I don't know what the process is over here, but we have like yellow stickers and red stickers if your car's not roadworthy. It's not just about whether or not he knows to put the seatbelts on these kids, or whether or not he knows the road rules. It's about, is the vehicle in good enough condition to actually transition them safely? So often when I'm talking with parents, they're looking at, you know, my kid needs therapy, or my kid needs assessment, or my kid needs this program, and they will do anything and everything for their children, but they are the vehicle that is transitioning their child through childhood. And so they see this idea of like resourcing themselves as this selfish thing, but it is not. Like, you have to put your freaking self first if you are serious about caring for your kids. So I like that as a workaround, because if you don't want to care for yourself, but you only care for kids, that's okay. You can put your kids first. That means you have to spend money on yourself. That's the only way this works. Like, you have to invest in you, because you are the one that is there when they get home from school. You are the one that is taking them to handovers. You are the one that is there when the other parent calls. All of it. You're the one who's there. And so to keep asking yourself to do that when you're rusty and oil's leaking everywhere and your reservoir tank needs refilling is a little bit unfair and a little bit uncaring for your kids. Like, you have to do this for you if you're serious for your kids.
I love this. I love this work. I love the metaphor. I love the perspective taking piece of going back and revisiting yourself as a child or younger self, what you need, and gaining wisdom from your future self. And when I hear you, first of all, I love the way you are, like the way I love that you swear, like we can see how passionate you are so passionate about this. I just love your style, Tiffany. And I love your work. And I can hear that it is such a warm and compassionate, it feels like a warm and compassionate blanket that is put around you as you are going through this transition in your life. And I just wanted to say again, I said this a bazillion times now, I needed that when I went through this, and I hope that people will talk about this, will share this, will use this, and will, come to you and your program and get help on going on this journey.
Because
Yeah.
There's
Come
a
on.
very specific part that I would really love to challenge the community to explore some more. Would it be okay if I spoke about that?
Sure.
And I love that for anyone
Freaking go
watching,
for it. It's a hell
just saying,
yes.
no, no, Tiff, no, no.
It's a hell yes.
So one of and yes, you're exactly right. I'm glad that that is the feeling that you're getting with me, because what I want every time that a parent steps into my world is for them to feel wrapped in love. Like, I just literally want to hold them and just love the heck out of them, because bloody hell, they need it. They absolutely need it. They're going through enough. There is an entire different process for helping families separate well compared to the traditional narrative that we know about, in terms of, generally when people separate, the advice that they're given is not go and see a co-parenting coach or have you, it's go and see the lawyer, and
Yeah.
and then go see the lawyer, then mediate and argue against each other and what have you. Across Europe, Australia, America, there is a process called collaborative practice, and it is recognised as a way. It's been around since the 1990s, so it's been recognised for a long time as an alternative way to help people to separate, both in terms of their parenting arrangements and their financial arrangements. And for us, who come from a background as therapists, it makes complete and utter sense. We are like ducks to water for this process. The lawyers, it's not. This is a complete mind shift for them. It really blows them apart when they step, and they created it. So, but it's a huge shift for them, because their whole training is around how to argue really well, how to fight really well, and ours is how to heal, how to bring people together, how to find solutions. In a collaborative process, rather than having a mediator or a magistrate, you have someone like you or me. You have a mental health trained coach. And so the coach meets with the parties. And in fact, not even parties, because they're not against each other, but the parents, and looks at, similar to some of the stuff we talked about, what do they want for their children? How would they like to get there? Looks at what skills they need to be able to have those conversations. And then sometimes the process might all be done with a coach. But other times there are things that are more tricky or more complex, and it's necessary to bring in more to the team. And so when we do bring in lawyers into the team, we bring them in as part of one team, not two opposing sides, but two sitting together to brainstorm with the coach and the parents, how do we do this together? And then, like, I'm great at helping people navigate complex conversations. And I'm great with my own money, Ricky. I honestly am, but I'm not going to tell anybody else what to do with their money. I've not spent my career on that. So when it gets to the financial side or the property side, we bring in a financial neutral, an accountant or a financial advisor, who can then help step through, again, how do we do this to hold all of you together? The view of the collaborative team is not how quickly can we get you to an agreement, but how do we wrap around you, care for you, and help the two of you come up with a plan, so that we never need to worry about contravention orders and people not complying and whether or not ever go to a legal process, because you feel so grounded, so connected to what you're doing and why you're doing it, so that the whole family is looked after the whole way through. What I would love to invite our community to do is to explore the capacity for more of us to become collaboratively trained coaches, because goodness me, they need us. And because of our systems focus, I think we are absolutely the best people to be stepping into that space.
I love that, working together collaboratively and caring for the entire family. And the goal, not, it doesn't have to be like, I was talking about my own example of us having dinner and traveling together. And that is how we have sorted our family out. And that may not be the goal for people. Co-parents doesn't have to be best friends and travel together. Well, but what they need to do is, or what they can choose to do, is to co-parent in the most kind and compassionate way for the sake of their children, regardless of how much or little contact they may have, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that space to look at, yes, for our family situation, what is right. And
Yes.
what I like to say to parents is, sometimes they'll start with questions like, well, what are we supposed to do? What is the percentage supposed to be for this and that? And the answer is, if the two of you are working together, you get to make your own rules, just like you did before you separated. For intact families, generally, I mean, unless you're actually being investigated for abusing your kids, in which case you probably need some support and resourcing because you haven't got the skills that you need for the job that you're trying to do. And again, you want compassionate care rather than judgment coming in. But generally, people aren't coming in and telling you how to raise your kids and who should do school pickup and who should have them over the weekend. It just happens. And that same possibility is there for people raising kids across two homes. If they work together, everybody else could just stay the heck out of their business. And that would suit me a whole heap better. I don't want anyone up in my business.
No. As long as they work together, everybody else can stay the heck out of their business. I love that. And so we're coming to an end of this. So we just agreed that this is part one because there's so much more. I now invite to you who are watching this, put in your comments. Do you have questions? Do you have any experience that you want to share? And Tiffany and I will go through the comments, and then we will do a part two live when the IT gods are with us, and where I, get a little help with that. But we will come back to you in a while, where we will talk about your comments, answer your questions. So please take this opportunity to connect with us, and from a more from my, this is an invitation from me, put your hearts and love for Tiffany and the work that she's doing also in the comments. I think it's really nice that when you've done, when you come in here and giving a talk and having spending time on sharing what you're passionate about, to see that people are actually watching this and listening and enjoying this. So this is my invitation to you all to send some love for Tiffany in the comments, because it's nice to come back and read that. And so do you have a final thing that you'd like to say to people who are listening right now, and a final remark before we close the bar today, Tiffany?
I think my final remark is how wonderful it is that we get a part two. I think that is what the internet gremlins have given us, to have a second go at this conversation. I've loved this opportunity to chat together, and I'm really looking forward to see what questions and comments come in, and to having that part two. So in the meantime, if anybody wants to check out where I am, I'm on Facebook, Insta and LinkedIn at Co-Parenting Companion, and my website is coparentingcompanion.au or .com or .com.au. We kind of took them all so that we're really easy to find. But come and check it out and let me know what is resonating for you, what isn't. And I'm really looking forward to that second conversation.
And me too. And I just want to amplify what you just said, that now that it happened, now that it fell out in a way that we couldn't be live because I didn't figure out how to do that today. We do get a part two, and I think that is a beautiful bonus that we got today, that I get to connect with you again, and that we get to again see the comments and challenges and wins that people have, so that there's a part two. So keep tuned, stay tuned for the part two. Please share your comments. We want to know that if you're watching this, whatever shows up for you, put your question, put your challenges, so that we have something to come back to for a second cocktails and courageous conversation. As always, cocktails are optional. For me, it's 9:00 in the morning. I have not started drinking. And we'll just say that this is not a drinking program. Cocktails are optional. Courage is guaranteed. You can join this with a cocktail, a mocktail, a cup of coffee, whatever works for you. The whole aim is that you hopefully see that we're just two friends having a nice time together after work in a bar, talking about something that we're really passionate about. And you, my friend, you bring me to tears in so many levels. First of all, I love your energy, and I love the way that you I love the way that you do. Can I say that? The way that you are. But I love the way that you talk about this. I love that you have done this, and I love the change that you're making in this world. So I'm honored to have you here, Tiffany. I'm so happy that you'll come back. And to everybody else watching this, stay tuned for more with our very own Tiffany Rochester, and please go and check out her work. I'll also put this below the video, links for Tiffany's website and the program so that you can check it out. So everybody, we look forward to see you again. See you soon. Bye guys.
See you later.